Hey everybody, I just want to make this video because I want to share my views on this video that discusses Gavin Newsom and it's from Valuetainment. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because I feel like this is probably going to be an opinion shared by a lot of Americans or people in general. Not because it's entirely correct, but because it's a prominent channel and yeah, so let's just get into it.
Let's go to another genius, Newsom. Here's an article from The Blaze a month ago. Leftist anarchist experiences
You're trying
California.
to get me in trouble. You're trying to get me in trouble,
California is a shit show under Newsom.
Yes.
Leftist commentator, anarchist sparing the young Turk.
It's probably, someone who's lived in California, it's not bad because of one particular person. This is probably a issue that's going on in many parts of this country. And this is just a byproduct of a declining economy. And it's not any one individual person's fault. It's just the nature of human. A lot of us are very greedy. We have a country that's been reliant on slave labor, colonialism and imperialism, and imperialist and colonial structures like our financial system, our economic system, all relies on unfair trade that really it gives the United States a lot of its advantages while disadvantaging other countries. You also have to remember that a lot of other emerging economies and growing economies were dependent on the United States, and this allowed us to have really good deals. One example is like with China. We could offer our businesses after China was colonized by the during the Opium War, and this left China in a very vulnerable state. So we could export our businesses and bring it to China and use their Chinese cheap labor to produce goods and services for the United States. And this allowed us to have a very exuberant standard of living. And as other countries rise and the global economy becomes a little bit more fair as other countries start developing, this is just the byproduct of it. The United States can't have like over leveraged type of living, a standard of living, because it's not something we truly deserved. We relied on a lot of cheap labor, whether it be domestically or internationally. So when the world becomes more fair and you start seeing more trade practices and a more equitable global economy, it's just really hard to sustain high standards of living in terms of like goods and services and things like that. And you also have to account for like, yeah, human greed, human nature. It's not just a left or right thing. It's just I would say it's an American thing in general, and it's not individuals' fault. It's our leaders who have failed us for generations.
First describes California as a shit show. The leadership of Golden State Governor Newsom, a Democrat. California is without a question a shit show under Newsom, but I guess propping up proven failures is what the Democratic Party excels
True.
at these days.
So this isn't a failure from the left or the right. Well, there is no real left in America, where both the Democrats and Republicans are very much right-leaning. But this isn't a failure on any individual party. This is a systemic failure that, in my opinion, has been handled fairly well as we've declined as a country and other countries rise.
In a post on X, failure is what Democratic Party excels at. Newsom, who served as governor since 2019, won re-election last year after surviving a governor. Okay, so California, you're still living in California, right? I lived there for 24 years minus 3 years in the Army. You lived in California. You lived in California.
I was born there.
And he's dated a lot of Californians, but he's never lived in California.
Yeah.
So how is California like today? How is your governor doing today? And why are you still in California?
I'm still in California. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm not gonna leave. And
I don't know. Does this person? I think this is probably some kind of like pundit of some sort. So I don't know if they're actually really educated or if they have like the best interest in mind of people. They might just be a pundit who makes money by like controversial takes or really sensationalizing views and making very complex things and issues and making it more simpler than what it's not in order to appeal to a certain audience, which can subsidize her living, right? So that's my opinion of her so far. I don't really follow these kind of things, so I don't watch these kind of things often. I don't really follow these people, so I don't know any of them except for the main guy, because I've seen a few of his business videos from like 5 or 7, 10 years ago or something, which were pretty good. But the commentary stuff, it seems like this guy just wants to make money off of events, which is fine, I guess. Yeah, news channels do it.
Just allow the most extreme elements of the left destroy the state. Okay? So I'm going to stay and I'm going to fight. And
Is this really a left thing? Because I don't think the Democrats in the left or I don't really know any leftists in the United States in general. Like, the Democrats aren't really left. Yeah, they're very much far right. The entire country is very, very much far right, very imperialist, whether they realize it or not. We also rely on imperialist and colonial structures that we've built historically until this day.
I'm going to make it better. I think LA and California in general still has a lot of potential, but there have been some policies implemented that have been disastrous. So Gavin Newsom and the current Democratic legislature in the state of California have engaged in this trend of decriminalizing everything and refusing to regulate things. So I'll give you some examples. One of the things that they decriminalize but refuse to regulate is prostitution, okay? I think that sex work should be legalized.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know too much about this part, so I don't know. I haven't really done too much research into this part, so I'm going to skip this because, yeah, I can't really give my honest opinion on it.
And regulate as kids are as hell. So we're just paying taxes. They're being controlled and sex trafficked by Johns. Okay, It is the worst possible solution to the issue. Okay, no one is safe. Everyone's angry, and you see all sorts of terrible stuff. Bunch of people
that could be a very bad thing. I don't know if it's just one person in particular who made this an issue, but yeah, I don't want to comment on that too much because I haven't done enough research to actually give an honest opinion that I think's even worth anything.
Shooting up. I don't think that they don't want to do anything to regulate so we can see these cities thrive, but these cities are not thriving. Okay.
Well, actually, when it comes to cities thriving in general, it's not about not about prostitution and things like that or sex workers, but when it comes to cities thriving in general in the United States, I don't think a lot of cities are thriving. It doesn't matter if you're in a left or right leaning or blue or red country, blue or red state. I think a lot of cities in general are just not doing that well, and this has actually been it's always been like that in America for a very long time, where when or economically speaking, when you have developing countries or developing cities or urbanization, there's always going to be a big disparity between the fortunate and the less fortunate, and that includes homeless people. There's large cities is generally where you see like the largest amounts of class divide, because you just have such a high dense population of people in very small areas. And just with way cities are structured of import and exports, but I don't want to get too much into that. But it's from my understanding in history that it doesn't really matter if we look now, whether it's the California or Texas or Idaho. Large cities with dense populations generally have a high rate of poverty, and it sucks. Like, I wish we could fix this, but I don't think this is unique to just California. I think this is a very prominent problem in multiple cities throughout the United States, whether it's left or right or blue or red. Maybe I took that out of context, so yeah, I probably did. Okay, sorry.
Okay, San Francisco is terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to me because the business community there wants to put lipstick on a pig.
I don't know too much about that. I don't think I'm going to disagree with that person, but yeah, when it comes to cities in general, most of them do have a lot of homeless and crime and poverty and a lot of things that we shouldn't be okay with. This isn't unique to California or San Francisco, though.
They want to put out this 4 million.
And by saying something like, oh, okay, like San Francisco has a lot of it. Yeah, but a lot of cities have too much of it regardless if it's San Francisco. Like, yes, does San Francisco have a lot? Yeah, but who's to say that red state cities won't be worse than what they are now, just as a byproduct of a declining economy? Like, maybe. I'm just going to assume that San Francisco has way more poverty and homeless than some, like Dallas, like the cities in like Texas, but that doesn't mean that's not going to change over time. Like, I really do think, as a byproduct of a declining economy, in the aggregate, cities in general are just going to feel the pain of less economic privileges, less resources, and just just the byproduct of a declining economy.
$1 million ad campaign pretending as though everything in San Francisco is all hunky-dory. It's not hunky-dory. San Francisco is a nightmare.
I think all politicians do that. Like, when you have big visitors coming in, or when you're hosting events like the Olympics or something like that, you spend a lot of money, even getting your cities or state or countries into debt in order to like clean things up temporarily and put on a good show for visitors. So it's not unique to California.
Yes, violent crime went.
They do this in Hawaii. They do this in Idaho. They do this pretty much anywhere if there's an event going on.
Down a little bit.
And I think that's the problem with America in general. Like, we have a lot of problems and we just kind of sweep it to the side, which is why a lot of people generally feel like the system's left them behind, whether you're left or right. I think that's something a lot of Americans agree on, especially when you look at certain age demographics, especially the older people. They just feel like the country has just left them behind and forgotten them. This is not uniquely a left or right thing. This is a problem for a lot of the Rust Belt too. Where you have a lot of people who have lost their job in manufacturing and in oil production or energy production. And this isn't because of a left-leaning president. This isn't because of a right-leaning president. This is because businesses in general in America have screwed over its people because of loose regulation, because of globalization, and we know what globalization, it's not a bad thing. Like, globalization is a very much good thing, but it's how irresponsible we've been as a country when it comes to globalization that we've allowed to not share the gains of it, of our prosperity and our manufacturing and our production, effectively to set our country up to really have its people benefit from it. We've accumulated a lot of the wealth at the very top. This is not a left or right thing. This is just human nature in general. So yeah, it's not just a left or right thing. We have a lot of we have a lot of problems with on the Rust Belt in the red states too. So we can't really ignore this, and I would argue that it's something we need to take just as seriously as problems in blue states.
But your car's going to get broken into. Okay? You're going to get robbed.
Those are up, by the way. Both
Yeah,
of those
those are
two
up.
categories are
And
up.
Correct.
and the smash and grabs, and you love
Okay,
the
keep going.
smash.
Okay, so I know we're focusing on left states in general, or blue states in general, but hey, we have a lot of big problems in red states too. And like, I don't know. I think, see, what the problem with this is that these people, I guess they're red Republicans or something. I don't know. I don't even know what they are. But what people need to understand, and I'm pretty sure Americans do, is that they understand that the left or right, or Democrats or Republicans, don't really care about the majority of Americans. And how can you expect them to? There's 350 million people in America. There's only a few politicians at the very top. You know, things are generally handled at a state level, but you gotta be honest with you. Do you think most politicians really care about you or I or individuals? No. The only people who can really empathize with each other are those at the very bottom. Us, the majority. I'm not going to think any of these people generally care about whoever they're speaking on behalf of. Like, they don't care about any of us. They're probably like political pundits making money off this because it's a profitable thing to talk about this. Like news, sensationalization, not having a rational discussion that allows people to really get to understand each other and how to fix problems because they benefit from these problems. So Yeah, it's not. This is not unique to left. Like if we had if we have blue state problems where people are breaking into cars and stuff, well, that happens in red states too. And like the problems vary, and how they deal with their economic problems are leading towards the same human right violations and lower standard of living, but it's just done differently. You know, you paint a cat, I guess, a certain color, but it doesn't matter if it's blue or red, it's still a painted cat, and the cat doesn't really like it.
Grabbed in LA because they decriminalized under $1,000.
Keep going.
I mean, it's not right. There are certain issues that we've had for a long time. The drug war was a failure. And so going back to the drug war, I don't think is going to be effective. But you know what?
The drug war. Okay, so I know a little bit about this. The drug war, I guess they're talking about the context of blue state like California. Yeah, it's a failure. It's a failure in red states too. It's a failure in general in America, and this is not a unique problem whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. This is a ongoing problem in America for generations. I mean, when you have, in my opinion, when people generally turn to drugs, alcohol, sensationalized news, media, large consumptions of media and things like that, because, well, one, it's very addicting. Two, it's a good way to cope with the reality of things. Three, people generally like to numb themselves if they aren't very happy. And four, yeah, maybe I don't have a four, but drug problems and the drug epidemic is not unique to just people in California. This is a nationwide problem. You have pharmaceutical companies that are doping people up and making them addicted to drugs. So with the whole thing of fentanyl, okay, so I think from my understanding of fentanyl, there are some dark black market manufacturers, kind of like meth labs, that produce fentanyl, and then they export it to Mexico, and then Mexico sells it to the United States. Okay, so this has been going on for a very long time, whether it's manufactured in or produced in Mexico or in the United States or through our pharmaceutical companies. Opiums and opioids and all these kind of drugs and addictive substances, it's not unique to China, the United States, or Mexico. This is something that's an ongoing problem, that's a byproduct of a failing economy and leadership that has failed our people, and not being able to really regulate things, as we've had a lot of things thrown at us. And it's much easier to drug up our people and sedate them rather than fix the problems. You know, we saw it during the lockdowns that, during the lockdowns, there was a lot of draconian laws that were passed that forced essential employees to work and non-essentials to stay home. Despite essential employees making less than those on unemployment benefits that were enhanced, no one cared about them. Why? Because everyone is sedated by kabuki theaters, politics, and technology and drugs. And this is not a left or right problem. This is an America problem. This is the United States failing us and its people as a country, and just failing us as a country. This is not external problems. Like, there's no other country interfering. Like, this is just failed leadership at the top to bottom, and this has been going on for generations. Okay, it's really hard to manage people. We're not perfect, and maybe people in the United States want fascism. I don't know. Maybe they want that because they think it's the only way things are going to get better. But fascism or authoritarianism isn't something I'm seeing from the left or right. This is something I'm seeing from just America in general. And when we use arbitrary definitions like Democrat or Republican, it makes people think that they're so much different when they're pretty much the same.
What else isn't effective? Using taxpayer money, funneling it to nonprofits so they can literally buy crack pipes and hand them out at Skid Row.
Yeah, that probably, I don't know if that's a real thing. I'm going to take this person's word for it, but Yeah, I think either way, yeah, that's very questionable, very concerning practices. But look, nonprofits have been abused all over America, whether you're Republican or Democrat. This is just, again, you know what? Let's just not talk about Republican or Democrat. Let's just talk about America in general. Like, do you think it really matters if you're Republican or Democrat that you're less likely to take advantage of the system, evade taxes, exploit the system, and make as much money as you can, or push whatever personal agenda you have? This is not unique to anyone in particular.
And bleach
there's
pits.
video evidence of that.
How does that make
so
any sense?
anyone on the left
Yeah.
who wants to come at me and pretend like this is just a right-wing scaremongering,
I believe you. I don't know if I'm left or not, but I don't think the United States is very left. I don't think you're left. I think Democrats in America are not left, and I don't think the Republicans are very much left either. I think both parties are very much far right leaning and very much beholden to large corporations that don't care about the country.
talking point, you're full of crap, and you should go online and you should watch the videos of literal. We spent $13 billion in Los Angeles.
I'm going to kind of skip this because I don't really feel like this is that important. I feel like while there's some truth to this, and probably it could be very well true, it's not really that important because inefficient spending has been a very big thing from just the United States in general. It's not a left or right thing. It's just in general when companies want to make a profit, or there's sketchy entities that want to make money.
Alone last year's money. Okay, that is the hard-working people of California paying incredibly high taxes that go to what?
Well, don't you think that's the same problem for a lot of red states too? It's not just a unique California problem. This is a problem in the United States. You have issues where wages are stagnating, the cost of living in general is going up, and the cost of living going up is not simply because we have inefficient spending. That is one, but it's like a mixture of a globalized economy where other countries are not being exploited easily. The United States really does rely on a financial system that benefits us. Like, we can raise and lower rates, and we can milk money from other countries. We can take their resources. We have a structure where we can pretty much act as dealers of a casino in a sense, and we can just like wash people out by just simply raising our interest rates for developing economies that can't afford to pay off their debts for our country. We also have a economic and financial system that pretty much relies on trade that benefits us. I'm sorry, it's just that there's so much to talk about that comprise how we've had such a high standard of living for decades and why it's going away. And I think those are the main reasons why. And I think that's what the United States has to deal with. It's more so like, how are we going to deal with like our declining privileges over time? Like, we can't fight for it back. We can't like impose our military all over the world. Okay, we kind of are, but we can't force countries to like keep being indoctrinated slaves to us. Like, we can't do that. They're going to want trade that is more fair.
So yeah, I'm sick of it. And honestly, just experiencing what I've seen on the ground in California has made me question a lot about left-wing ideology.
Now, what do you think about your governor going and spending time with G this last week?
Okay, so again, a lot of the problems in California are problems we're probably going to see spreading more throughout the country, not because of any particular individual, but as a byproduct of a declining economy that is losing its superpower as a global superpower that relies on imperialist and colonial structures that kind of act like a Ponzi scheme with the United States at the very top. And this Ponzi scheme is becoming less lucrative for those at the top. So this is, maybe look at it that way, and then you'll understand like why in the aggregate we're facing more problems on a macro and micro level. Like, why is it that despite red states doing things right supposedly by this person, I think they're probably implying, why are they going through the same problems, and why are problems getting exacerbated? Why do we see a lot of the same problems in cities or red states and blue states? Why do we see the very similar problems? Because it's just the byproduct of a declining country, socially, economically, civilly, values, culture, the way it's structured, and introducing technologies and development that we're just maybe not ready for. We're also dealing with like a debt bubble, whether it's in real estate, the stock market, equities and assets. We're also dealing with an aging population and demographic shift. We're also dealing with corporatisms and oligarchies, making it impossible for newer and younger people to want to contribute and be a shareholder in society, because it's just so much harder than what it was to attain like the picket fence and a nice house and two dogs, two kids and a dog kind of standard of living, the American dream. It's just harder to obtain the American dream in general. Things like oil prices or energy prices going up, this is not because of a failure of one president. It's a failure of our country for generations.
I'll read the story to you. I think even just happened maybe yesterday.
Yesterday, he was there
whatever
yesterday,
it was. Yeah,
kissing
so
his
here you
ass.
go. California Governor Newsom has surprising meeting with China's leader Xi amid warm welcome in Beijing. California Governor Newsom meets Xi during his visit to Beijing underscores a shift in U.S.-China relations. Newsom's focus on climate cooperation comes in heightened tensions between the two nations.
So when it comes to climate change, look, climate change is going to happen whether or not humans existed or not. But the science, now I don't know if I believe in this or not. It's just I'm just going to go off the science, whatever that means, right? Okay, so the United Nations believe that climate change is going to be a big issue. Okay, this is something that all of the people, all parties in the United Nations, 198 parties, I believe, agreed upon to take action under the Paris Accord, the Paris Agreement. And sorry, top of my head, but yeah, so all the parties agreed that they're going to contribute towards reducing the negative impacts of climate change by making sure that we don't reach, gosh, was it 2 Celsius higher than expected pre-industrial levels or something? And that's not my point though. But look, climate change is a real thing, and that's something that, you know, it cannot be denied. Climate change is a real thing. Do humans contribute towards climate change? Probably, right? Do they contribute towards a certain degree that, you know, was unavoidable? I would say maybe. Like, if the earth was gonna, you know, warm up over time anyway, yeah, like there's nothing you can really do about that. Maybe we can slow that rate down, and certain climate changes conditions could happen to offset that over time, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not an expert in this, okay? I'm just gonna go off what I've read online and whatever the United Nations has, which has more credibility than me, or probably these people, and this is general consensus around the global community. So I'm gonna approach it with that.
With Xi expressing hope that the visit would enhance cooperation between China and California, Xi stated, "I hope your visit will enhance mutual understanding between the two sides and play a positive role in expanding cooperation between China and California and promoting the healthy and stable development of Sino-U.S. relations." During these discussions, Newsom and Xi addressed the acceleration of climate progress and combating the transnational shipping of precursor chemicals for synthetic drugs such as fentanyl. Xi hinted at the possibility of attending the Asia.
Okay, I already gave my views on fentanyl earlier, but I think what I want to talk more so about was the two main reasons I found from their meeting, and one was to combat climate change, and the other one was the economics behind it and how they need to strengthen economic ties in order to help both countries.
Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco and meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden. Why do you think he's in China?
He's in China because he already thinks of himself as the president. Okay, I have no doubt.
I don't think he went to China because he thinks he's going to be the president. I mean, yes, very much possible that he does think this, but I don't think that's the main reason why he'd go. And it's not really the most productive reason to go. I think the main reason why he went is because the West Coast in general historically has always been, well, when you trade with China, a lot of our goods come from the Pacific, right? So when you are shipping goods and services from China or just the East in general, it goes through the Pacific Ocean. It goes towards ports like Hawaii, and then it comes from China or Japan or the East to the West. And, you know, California has heavily relied on trade, just like this whole country in general, but it generally goes from East to the West Coast first. So he's probably strengthening economic ties because each state in the United States has their own revenue source, right? Some produce energy, some produce crops, some produce technology, etc., etc. And California has a huge problem. You have a lot of people leaving there. You have a lot of businesses leaving the California, so you're going to need businesses. And the best way to do that is if your businesses are leaving your country, then, you know, you may want to do more trade. You may want to interact more globally. But the thing is that this isn't unique to just California. All states trade and actively participate in a globalized economy. Some don't have to as much, but this isn't a thing because of like one is better. This is just because every state has their own revenue and production and export and imports.
That eventually it'll come to a point where the Democratic Party has decided, no, this is the person you need to vote for. Anyone who speaks out against him is the enemy. I would just say that his leadership in California is good reason to brush him off for the loser that he really is. Okay?
Probably. I mean, but that's just like a lot of presidents in general, whether it's Trump, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom. It doesn't really matter. A lot of our politicians have failed us. A lot of our business moguls have failed us. A lot of the people who have very prestigious power and responsibilities have failed us. This is not unique to Gavin Newsom. This is epidemics sweeping America. A lot of our country's leaders have failed us.
Over there
Our politicians have failed. DeSantis, Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, Trump. They've all failed us. Like, let's be honest.
China talking about fentanyl, right? How about you clean up your own house?
Yeah, the discussion about fentanyl is interesting, but I think the main reason why they did that, Gavin Newsom went to China, was to talk about climate change and economics, like making trade and strengthening ties economically with a country like California that needs more business and needs more revenue and money.
How about you take a look at what's happening with the
Because without China, we're never going to reach 2% inflation. Like, again, the United States has only had 2% inflation because we've relied on other countries' imports. We've relied on Chinese goods and services and other countries' goods and services and economic activity that benefit the United States. Like, here's the United States, and here how it's been. Depending on if you're a first, second, or third world country, we will, if there's like 100 salmon and 100 tunas, okay, the United States will give 100 tunas and we will get 200 salmons in return. Is this a fair deal? Not really. I mean, you get 100, we give only 100 and we get 200 back, but they still need that 100 of our tunas. But it's not a fair deal for them. But as these other economies grow and as they have more options to trade from, then they don't have to trade with us as much. They won't take our bad deals, and we have to be more fair. Like, we have to give 100 tunas for 100 salmon, and because of that, we don't get a high standard of living that we used to, because if we try to rip them off, they'll say, no, I'll just trade with a different country because I don't like this deal. Or if we tax other countries by saying, oh, are you making a transaction? We get to get 10% of whatever the transaction is via the petrodollar or reserve currency. Then, you know, that's another way. But we are losing these privileges which have heavily benefited our country. This is not it's a mixture of a failing economy. It's a mixture of a failing leadership from business moguls, from politicians, from presidents, from just people in general, of greedy human nature in America, and just our declining supremacy as a military force and an economic force. Like, this is just the byproduct of a failing and declining imperialist and colonial nation. Like, you can look up history, it's very much identical. Like, this is not unique.
Prosecutions or lack of prosecutions of the drug traffickers in your state. He can't be bothered to deal with that, right? He can't be bothered to deal with the...
I also want to talk about immigration. Illegal immigration is not something that Republicans or the right are opposed to. This is more of a class thing, in my opinion. I think that America has always relied for a very long time on cheap labor and immigrants, whether it be from Chinese slave laborers that built our railroads and our infrastructure, to black people who were our slaves, towards Hispanics who we use for, menial labor that no one wants to do. Americans in general just love immigrants. This isn't a left or right thing. If it's a Republican business owner or a Republican state, if they can use the illegal immigrants and pay them less to make them work harder, they're going to use them. It's not unique to the left or right. This is just an American problem. I don't know. Fentanyl again. It's not because of any country in general. It's because our country is failing us. It's way more complex than, one country manufactures it. It doesn't matter. Meth, opioids have been a problem. Have you ever looked at our pharmaceutical companies? What about meth houses in general in America? What about like high uses of opioids and methamphetamines in general in America? This is a big problem in both the Rust Belt, red states, and blue states. This is just a byproduct of a declining economy where there's just so many numerous problems in this country that have been unregulated, that we just don't know how to handle. And sometimes using drugs, whether it's a right or left-leaning president, it's just so much easier to sedate your people if you want to have more control over them or coerce them towards economic agendas. This again isn't unique to one party or the other. Like, it's just the entire system, and that's the problem. Like, it's not about a left or right thing. It's the whole country failing us.
Absolute degenerate garbage that comes out of his administration. Instead, he's going to China pretending as if everything he's been doing in California is great, and he's a great leader who, has that road paved for him to be president.
Well, I don't think this is just unique to any politician. All politicians do this. All states do this. All countries do this, right? So this is not unique to just Gavin Newsom. Like, if you're going to host the Olympics, you're going to make it look nice. If you're going to host like a political event, you're going to make it look nice. You're going to sweep all the problems under the rug. I mean, look at like this. Every time we have a problem in the United States, we just sweep it under the rug and we hope everyone's just supposed to be okay with it. During World War II, we put our Japanese Americans in internment camps and we took away everything from them. And then we just said, okay, here's some small lump sum of reparations. Not everyone gets it. Only some of you do. And you're supposed to be cool with that. And then, maybe there's disgruntled people, but they get away with it. You colonize the Native Americans and steal their land. They're still fighting for it at international court. And you say like, oh, we can't give it back to you because there's too much rich white people living here now. And we've already established our country. We've already established our system onto you. So even if you wanted it back, we're just going to hope that over time we can sedate your people and genocide them. And hopefully you'll stop complaining because your population has declined so much that you can't do anything about it. Same thing with the Native Americans. Same thing with Mexicans. So this is not a unique problem to...
I can't stand Newsom. Okay, we're talking about a guy...
I mean, it's just a country in general. Like the left, right, Republicans or Democrats, they all wanted that. Like, okay.
Who has implemented policies that has increased crime in his state, and then he turns around and says, no.
Crime in general has been rising all over this country. It's just, which one do you want to look at? Drug use, probably going up everywhere. Racism, probably going up everywhere. Just attacks, school shootings, financial crimes, um, you know, drug use. All these things are just going up all over the country. Homelessness, not a crime, but just the problems in general. It's all rising. It's not unique to one country or state or one state.
I'm going to sign off on this legislation
tired.
that bans bulletproof vests in California.
This is, yeah.
What? You're going to ban bulletproof
That's very
vests
weird, but it's not really
without
relevant.
in your state that's on tape, that's all over the media. He just wants to pretend like what he has done to the state hasn't actually happened, but it's happened, and people are angry.
Okay, so a lot of the problems in California are very much problems happening almost everywhere, and it's probably going to get worse.
They're furious about it. The thing that frustrates me is that
I also want to mention that climate change is actually a real issue. It's just that in the United States, we are so desensitized, we are so brainwashed that when climate change impacts really do happen, whether it's man-made or not, doesn't really matter. Well, it does, I guess, from the United Nations at least. But when hurricanes do devastate people, when Lahaina fires do occur, like, we're so desensitized that we don't really do anything. Like, we click and type things that, like, yeah, we care, but we have so much resources in the United States and we have so much people that we can help fix the problem and we can sweep it under the rug, but that's all we really do. I mean, it's not like any of us are really going out there and helping people. So, you know, when it comes to, like, just when it comes to climate change, there are some countries that are more susceptible towards climate change epidemics in general. So it's like drought, heat, hurricanes, and all these other natural disasters that occur from climate change. Whether it's man-made exacerbations toward climate change or not, like, these things just occur over time, and some countries don't have the resources to really handle and mitigate and combat the aftermath of the devastation. So I think that's why a lot of people in America don't really take it that seriously, whether it's true or not. We just don't take it as seriously because we have a lot of resources not to care. We can afford not to care.
a lot of people vote based on vibes, right? So they look at him and they see a relatively young guy with good hair and he carries himself well, and they think that that's a leader.
I feel like that's the way you think about yourself. I feel like you think you're a young girl with relatively good hair and you carry yourself well, and that makes you a good pundit or a good leader or whatever. I feel like you're self-projecting here. I'm just saying, like, do I think what you're saying is false? No, but I think that's very much the way you feel about yourself.
But look at his leadership in the state, and then please come talk to me about how successful he's been.
And he's trying to put the fake on that right now. He's trying to put the head fake.
Like, I don't really feel like you've really brought any kind of... I don't know. I've just listened to 8 minutes of this, and nothing has really been said. I don't know. I guess the whole time all I've tried to really do is just give, like, a more different perspective on things, but I feel like you haven't really informed me of much. You haven't really given me, like, more things to consider, or really give me more, you know, better understanding of these things. You kind of just read the thing and okay.
He vetoed the bill about parents and trans.
I'm going to skip some because I don't really
Then he vetoed a
know
bill
too
that
much
was
about
being
this.
pushed by the unions to enforce fully automated trucks that would go up and down I-5, that if they were a fully autonomous truck, they still had to have a human sort of driving the truck.
Insane.
And it
Insane.
was a
So, yeah, this is probably all true, but I don't think, like, making policies that work against the people and the working class is unique to, like, the left or the Democrats. This is just, like, a failure in our country in general. Like, Republicans or business, you know, let's just not use Republicans or Democrats, but, like, businesses in general don't have working classes' best interests in mind. Like, I'm pretty sure we can pull a lot of we can find a lot of red states that very much screw over the working class. This is not unique to any business. It's just pretty much all businesses.
jobs bill, basically, and he went against that. things. I think the whole thing is a stage show, and I think the fix is in.
And
I agree.
It's just him. It's not changing. Huh? And you said you're
Look, I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I think California is notorious for voters who aren't really politically active, politically aware.
I don't think this person is very politically active or politically aware. You can be very politically active, but that doesn't mean you're actually like aware. I don't know what you've been saying for like the past 9 minutes, dude. Like, it's not really give anyone like a more informed position to give them like a more fair understanding or point of view on things. Like, you didn't you don't even discuss like, okay, why you don't even talk about like the economics of California, like how they need to rely on imports and exports in a globalized economy, and just things in general. Like, you can't just bring back manufacturing. No one's gonna want to buy our expensive stuff. Like, what are you gonna do? Bring all the factories that we exported to like Vietnam, China, Taiwan, Mexico? Like, no, you can't do that, because first, Americans don't want to do the job. Secondly, we don't have the skilled labor to do it. And thirdly, like, if we did produce those kind of goods that we exported to other countries, well, gosh, the price that it would cost to buy it from American made, truly 100% American made, like if we were to cut off ties with China or other countries in general, even just cutting trade off with China, like we would have to mark up all of our goods by like, God, thousands of percent. Like, I remember an article that said if we were to cut ties with China and we were supposed to solely rely on US manufacturing and supply chains, an iPhone's gonna cost like $8,000. This probably goes with everything: our cars, our tools, our houses, our goods and services, our things that we use on a daily basis from Walmart, Target. Like, gosh, yeah, we can't do that because it's going to be too expensive. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to want to do the work. So, yeah, I don't know.
And that has created a vacuum.
Or informed.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to politics, I would say, right? And so that's created an opportunity for some of the more far left activist fringe of the party to basically take control of things. And I'm talking about like the individuals who think that.
I find that the very far left and the very far right, whatever that means, they're both very much right. Like, they're both very much beholden to corporate interests. Like, it doesn't matter.
It makes sense to literally.
And they're both very much about censorship and reducing freedom of speech. It doesn't matter. Like, they only like certain beliefs when it benefits them, but like if it doesn't benefit them, they don't like it.
Literally abolish prisons and police. Which,
unbelievable.
And then they turn around, by the way, when I critique it or criticize it, it's like, no, but we don't actually mean abolish. No, you mean abolish. Newsom has closed 2 state prisons. During COVID, he released
Everybody.
tens of thousands of people from these prisons, okay? Now,
Look, I don't know too much about this, so I'm not going to talk on it too much. Do I think it's important to consider? Yeah, very much so. Like, that's not good.
And told everyone that the people he released were all let out during COVID. People who got released are non-violent offenders.
Yeah.
What happened to them? Where'd they go? Where did they go?
I said he was in jail, COVID in jail. I had to guess, and we had to bet money. Her over it. That's horrible that we have.
True open primary, Booker.
Then and talk about climate. By the way, China has one of the worst carbon footprints in the world, and they're over there talking about climate.
Wait. Actually, yeah, that's true. But I think I think it's the United States is not that much better, and we have less people. So let's look at that. Which. Okay, so per capita, Qatar has the highest carbon dioxide emissions worldwide per capita. This one says China. Oh wait, that's not one. So when you look at things like carbon emissions, you should be looking at like per individual, like how much carbon does each individual make. Like the population of China is like 4 or 5 times more than the United States. So yes, they're going to produce more carbon emissions, but what about just an individual basis? And that's what you need to look at, right? So yeah, when you look at it like this, CO2 emissions per capita. The United States has a population of 327,000, yet it produces, let's see, 5 billion tons of emission. But on the other hand, China does double that, but has like 5 times its population. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, like 4.5 times its population. So despite China, like if you're just to look at it per person, the United States per person produces way more CO2 emissions than per person in China. So imagine if you had, I don't know, you times the population of Americans by like 4.5. This thing is gonna go up by 4.5. Well, supposedly. That's not exactly accurate, right? But basically what it shows you is that the American lifestyle is very much the largest producer of carbon emissions. Well, let's see. Canada seems to be doing a pretty well. I don't know, actually. They have such a substantially less population. But yeah, when you look at a country like India, it's substantially less, right? You have almost very similar populations to China, but they produce substantially less. So, you know, if the United States produces this much CO2 emissions already with this small of a population compared to China, you imagine what would happen if they did. And a lot of this pollution isn't because of manufacturing and production. This is more because of exuberant lifestyle. So it's why I have a hard time watching these kind of things, because it's like it's really misleading, and that's the scary part, because it gives you like this weird frame of view that's not entirely accurate.
Man, are you freaking kidding me?
Just to be clear,
I don't even think these people truly believe what they're saying. I think they're just maybe pandering to a certain type of audience that enjoy raging and like not having the truth but want something to be angry at.
Clear on Newsom. Best of luck out there in California. You know,
Thank you.
Good luck trying to convince Californians to displace their political ideology and vote independent. I think 2/3 of Californians vote Democrat. That's not changing anytime.
Yeah.
But
Well,
talk
Republicans aren't much of a better option, right?
about President Newsom as a general election, like any.
I don't want to really
Is this
go
the
much
famous-
too into that. I
By
already feel like
corporate interest. I know it because that's exactly what happened with PG&E.
corporate interest is not unique to a Democrat or Republican. This is a problem in America in general. My God, dude. I don't even know why I did this. Like, I don't think it matters. This is such a waste of time. This was so stupid. This girl's so dumb. Everyone on this podcast is really stupid.
Failures
They're
is
really
what
dumb.
them-
All of these people are really dumb. They don't know what they're talking about half the time. Okay, you know what? To be fair, they're very smart. They're very smart in their own way. I really respect this person. He's really good at business. Does that mean he's a good person? Probably not. Are these people smart in their own way and educated in their own way? Very much so. At making money and being political and economic pundits and pretty much being entertainment, right? It's entertainment. That doesn't mean like, you know, and a lot of people don't want to sit down and open a book and do the research and take a class on economics. They don't want to do that because it's way too much work. This is easy. It's free. You can like do whatever you want to do and listen to these people babble on, and you can, you know, listen to key points that really interest you, and then you can, like, if they agree with you on your ignorant point of views, then you'll support them. But look, I'm not right on everything. I'm probably wrong on a lot of things. I didn't explain a lot of things right because this is just not the place to, well, actually it is the place to do it. But look, I wouldn't take any of these people seriously when it comes to some things, because they're never going to be truly honest with you. And again, like doing your own research is just, it takes way more time, it takes way more effort. So yeah, this is like the MTV of like politics, man. You're not really gonna get quality. So if I were to listen to this all the time, I would just take the news itself, but I wouldn't actually formulate your own opinions based on what these people think. I would just take the news yourself, see how it's important, gauge the sentiment, and then do your own research on it, and then come to your own conclusion based on your own understanding of things. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This person's really stupid. This person's really dumb. This person's just probably making a buck off idiots. And I don't know. This person is just trying to make money off of an audience, and I don't know. I mean, I'm very certain that most of these people are very smart, but I don't think they're really acting in the best faith for like its audience. Like, they're not really trying to give you like a nuanced point of view with, I mean, not nuanced, but like a really well-informed point of view, so you can come to like a better understanding of things. I think they just want to tell you how to feel rather than think, and be entertaining, so you keep watching their stuff and interacting the comment based on emotions rather than logic and an understanding of things like economics or politics. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't explain anything right, but damn, I can't believe people watch this stuff. I mean, it's fun, but I don't know, I feel like you might just want to read a book instead. I wasted 56 minutes of my life doing this. That was a terrible